Cut the crap. So I'm tired of the bullshit, and I'm tired of these narratives that are being spun to paint Meghan in this light when all of the facts clearly say otherwise. And then even still, people want to act like, I do not see, I don't see color, I don't see racism, I just perpetuate it. And that's not okay with me. So we're gonna dive into this interview that was like, so heartbreaking for me to watch as a Black woman and just as a person with empathy that apparently a lot of people don't seem to have. So we're gonna get into it because clearly y'all still don't understand, even in 2021, after everything that we've gone through, that racism is alive and well, and we need to do something about it. So let's get into it. Y'all are making me put my earrings on for this. I'm telling you, I'm tired. So Meghan and Harry sat down with Oprah to tell their story, i.e. the truth behind why they left the royal family, and it wasn't pretty. And might I say, while I was not surprised by what they had to say, it was so heartbreaking to sit there and watch this Black woman, yes, a mixed race woman, but a Black woman, recount the literal emotional and psychological abuse that was not only perpetuated by the so-called institution that apparently is the driving force of all things vitriol, defamation, and manipulation, but by her own family. This narrative that Meghan is somehow this calculated person that wanted nothing more than to escape the confines of the royal family needs to be debunked now. It makes absolutely no sense why a woman who unfortunately grew up in a society that romanticizes this idea of being a royal would give up her life, her career, and her freedom to ultimately crush the very system that she gave up her life to assimilate into. Make it make sense. The fact that people watched this interview and most had the caucasity to sit there and make these horrid assertions after watching this woman literally recount how she was on the brink of suicide and was denied help by the very people who were supposed to protect her in the first place is deplorable at best. And this whole situation brings up another fact that unfortunately, even in 2021, y'all don't want to acknowledge that racism is alive and well. And to all the people in the UK who want to be like, darling, did you hear about all of the terrible racism that's happening in the US? Oh, yes, it really is quite sad. We can never be like them. No, never be like them. No. So glad it doesn't exist here. Do I need to give you a history lesson? Y'all were some of the people who started this whole thing to begin with and continue to perpetuate it. Look at these headlines. Don't believe me? The double standard is so real, it's literally slapping you in the face. Let's take a quick deep dive. Here's what they had to say about Kate in the Daily Mail. Not too long to go, pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump while wrapping up her royal duties ahead of maternity leave, and William confirms she's due any minute now. Aww. What do they have to say about Meghan? Why can't Meghan keep her hands off her bump? Experts tackle the question that has got the nation talking. Is it pride, vanity, acting, or a new age bonding technique? Also, why do we give a shit if they're touching their bumps or not? That's what I don't understand in regards to both of them, really. What? I'm sorry, isn't this the same publication talking about the same thing for two different women? And the article about Kate was written first, so why are we acting as if this is a new concept? I don't know, maybe this is a one-off thing. Let's keep reading. Another one, Kate's morning sickness cure. Prince William gifted with an avocado for pregnant Duchess. So millennial, so wholesome. What did they have to say about Meghan? Meghan Markle's beloved avocado linked to human rights abuse and dropped millennial shame. Again, same publication, same topic, yet a totally different sentiment over an avocado. Let's also talk about the blatant lies that were spread about Meghan by the media. In the interview, they talk about how the press ran this story that Meghan made Kate cry over some bridesmaid dresses, when come to find out it was actually the reverse, and Meghan was gracious enough to not even say anything, yet the media still wants to paint an entirely different story. And if that wasn't enough, another story came out about how Harry and Meghan apparently blindsided the Queen about them leaving when a statement came out by the Queen saying that they had been having conversations about this for months, yet the press is like, nope, 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 this is what happened. Oh no, we know what you said. We know what you said, Your Majesty, but this is what we gonna say happened. Why do we think they did that? Anyone want to take a guess?
I don't understand, bitch. Don't understand.
I'll tell you why. Racism. The fact is, they made Meghan's life a living hell, manipulated her into leaving, gaslighted her, and then blamed her in front of everyone to try to make it seem like it was her fault when it wasn't. Like Meghan said,
they don't report the news, they create the news.
Now, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, I can't believe that. Like, what? Like, those are just headlines. Like, Why would that be considered racism? Like, I don't understand.
I don't understand.
It matters because, like they said in the interview, if the source of information in a country is bigoted, then the country becomes bigoted. No one is born racist, no one is born hating people, but if you're only fed racist narratives about a particular group of people, you're going to become racist. The exploitation of Black women in the media needs to end because regardless of what your opinion is, it can be extremely damaging to have constant defamation of your character go unchecked, which is why Meghan filed a lawsuit, but only after the Daily Mail had published a private letter she had written to her father. Wow. Let's also acknowledge the fact that it seems like the only support she's been getting throughout this entire thing has been from her husband, thankfully, but what about the rest of the family she married into? Is the royal family gonna help her? No, they're not. In fact, in the interview, they talk about how there's a difference between the royal family and the institution, and while that was something that I was ignorant to, they kind of explain it, and I did my research. I don't watch The Crown, but what I thought it was like in Game of Thrones, there was that guy who kept telling Cersei what to do even though she was the queen. But I guess in actuality, it's just a bunch of household staff at Buckingham Palace who run various departments that kind of keep this whole thing going. So if the institution is controlling this narrative, why doesn't the royal family help her? Sounds like a pretty decent question to me. I guess it's because the institution of the royal family survives on good press, right? So they throw these lavish parties, they schmooze them, they wine and dine these people so that they're painted in a positive light. But the royal family is too cowardly and too involved in their own self-interest to call out the defamation and bigotry being perpetuated towards Meghan. It's kind of funny how it's called a royal institution, yet people still want to deny the institutionalized racism in the UK.
That's suspicious.
And don't give me that BS about how members of the royal family have all gone through it. I know Kate was criticized in the media and was being called Waity Katie because she was waiting to marry William, and like that was rude, but ma'am, you are not a Black woman fighting racism in the media and trying to assimilate into a royal family that's been white since its inception. Let's be clear, like it was stated in the interview, being rude and being racist are not the same thing. Being racist is rude, but being rude without racism is far less severe. You're not the same, sweetie. And none of the royal family, aside from Harry, have a single idea about what Meghan's going through, and not because they're too dumb to contextualize it, but because they refuse to see it. It's the willful ignorance for me. We all need to have more empathy. Even Harry himself said he had to walk in his wife's shoes to understand like the difference in how she's being perceived. But heaven forbid he tries to get his family to open their eyes and see, because you know, like, were they receptive? No. Instead, they cut him off, falsify a narrative that it's not okay to be acting members of the royal family while living in another country, making deals and doing whatnot, even though it's been done before, strip them and their baby of their title, and leave them without protection. Oh, and that's on top of the fact that someone in his own family had concerns about their unborn child's skin color. Wow. And let me emphasize that the royal family left a part of their family that has been receiving death threats without protection. And if that child had turned out not white passing, do you know what that would have meant for him? You know, living in a world where Black men are killed by law enforcement on a regular basis. The royal family isn't just complicit in their oppression by the institution. They're active participants. That is a member of your family who is yet to be born yet, and you're worried about how dark he's gonna be? Let's not even get into the fact that Meghan is a light-skinned, mixed race Black women. I don't think they would have been able to handle it at all had she been a dark-skinned Black woman, but I don't think we're ready to have that conversation now, are we? I also find it especially insidious that in the interview they talk about how the press didn't always slander Meghan's name. It wasn't until her Australian tour, where she had announced that she was pregnant, that the hate really started to kick in. Something about adding that Blackness to that bloodline was like too much for you, huh? Made it a little bit too real for y'all. It's disgusting. Y'all need to understand that racism is an international problem that affects Black people everywhere. And when it comes to the intersectional conversation about this issue, Black women have it that much harder. Light-skinned or not, royal or not, and the world needs to recognize that. Not only was Meghan silenced, but she was given advice in 2018 that she would be better if she was 50% less of herself. Because, you know, Black women were too much. And you know what's sad, but thankfully, even though Meghan didn't seem to receive any support from both her immediate and royal family outside of Harry and her mama, because apparently she's a G who took an oath of silence and was like, nah, I'm not talking about my baby at all. But other Black people who have absolutely no relation to her were willing to help her. The fact that Harry's own family put him, his wife, and his kid out with no protection after slandering their name, and Tyler Perry, of all people, was the one to help them out, give them a place to stay, and provide them with security is remarkable to me.
Hello.
Shit, at least we got each other. Ultimately, if I have not convinced you that we have a serious problem here, I don't know how to help you. Even Harry himself, an actual prince, a cis-het white male born in a palace, was able to finally open his eyes and see that he was trapped in a corrupt system. Too bad I can't say the same for the rest of the family because, you know. Ultimately, I'm thankful that Meghan was strong enough and had enough support from the one member of the royal family that was willing to help her, her husband, and, you know, her people, to get out and get help. I'm happy that my girl is no longer being silent because she's no longer being silenced because she was able to get out of that system. Whew, so that was a lot. This girl's life was definitely not a fairy tale at first, but, you know, like she said, she fell in love with her prince, lost her voice, but now she has her voice back. So have some empathy and stop treating my girl like shit. And if you don't want to stop that, at least acknowledge you're a racist. Do better. And that's on Queen Meg.
And if the beat live, you know Lil Juke.